Top?
Yeah, let me click that. No,
I don't know what something just came up there. Okay, let me see. Hang on.
no.
No, that's okay. I mean, there should be. I don't know why. I mean, they can see both of us. Let me. I'm gonna
Okay,
go ahead. I'm gonna tag you on
all right.
it. That's strange. It's not. You're not seeing both. Oh, there might
Yeah.
be. If you look, maybe on the screen. Is there a small window showing both of us, and then the big window just? Yeah,
No, there isn't.
there might be a. Yeah, you're showing up, so we're good here. But
See that? No, that's no good.
uh, let me see here. Let me just fix this real quick. I'll tag you. There you go. I tagged you. Yeah, we're on. They're coming in. It's like 31 people on. What was I gonna say? You could try real quick. Oh, there might be like where you it does. It, I don't know if there's no icons underneath it showing that you can add.
Yeah, there is, but I tried all of those and nothing happened.
No, well, they can see you. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
And you don't
Okay,
need to.
I'll
You
just
don't need to look at me anyway.
pretend I can
I look
see
like
you.
hell. I look like hell today.
I'm sure you don't.
Well, feels like it. No, I'm kidding. You asked me how are these energies? How am I doing with these
Mm,
energies?
yeah.
Well, I'm at the point now where pretty much it seems like it's an everyday thing now. Um,
Yeah. It is,
but
hey?
yeah, for the last what maybe 10 days, it's been pretty. Or actually, the whole month uh,
Mm.
was really powerful. I think you started seeing a lot of what is it like solar flares and CMEs, and I remember they started on the 30th, and I remember it just blistered. It just there one day there was 17, one day there was like 50, so
Yeah.
it just keeps on coming. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I think it's the same old routine, just
Mm.
everything is about me. It's never anything
Exactly.
external, no matter what comes at me. Nobody's attacking me. Nobody's, it's gotten to the point now where I think the energy is allowing us to neutralize or bring equilibrium to anything if we're
Mm.
willing to take on the responsibility of saying, I created this, right? I mean, but anyway, we're not here for me. We're here to get to know you. It's a
Well,
pleasure.
we're
But
all
it,
me too, aren't we?
but it is a conversation. It's not a typical Q&A. If you watch the show, it's just a conversation between two people. We just happen to have a bunch of people in here, but
Yes.
watching us. But yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming in and sharing space with us. And
Yeah,
honoring
well,
us with
thanks
your
for
presence.
inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you always been this weird, or did you have a wake up experience?
And yeah, I think I've always been a bit weird on the inside, but we each hold different keys and codes, don't we? So they come at different times, and we come with different parts of the recipe. So yeah, I think I certainly, um, I think when I was around 10, I would start sort of waking up at night, and there'd be poetry streaming through me, and
Mm.
so I would keep a book beside my bed and write those things. And then in my teens, I would walk at night on the beach with Jesus, and we would have conversations.
Mm.
And then I think when I was maybe in my later teens, I would walk with Mary, with Mother Mary, in the in this rose garden, but we would never talk. I would just walk beside her, and I knew that I was getting stuff, but I didn't know what. And so I guess that was part of my um, opening up. I started doing. So I was in a meditation group, and we would create a connection circle and send energy off to places in the world, or people would send in requests for healing for people who they knew, and we would do that. And one night, I heard this voice say, "You're going to start channeling," and I just burst out laughing because that was just the furthest thing from anything I'd ever thought of. and a couple of days later in meditation, which I did sort of pretty regularly, morning and evening, I had a really bad headache, and I said to Spirit, what is going on with my head? Why have I got such a headache? And you'll know Spirit can have this great sense of humour, and I heard this very dry voice say, well, why don't you try opening your mouth? And so when I did that, information started tumbling out from beings who I'd never heard of, but when I looked them up, they were kind of, known ascended masters. So I spent a couple of years doing that, didn't do anything with it, just recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got shut down, and when I asked why, they said for your own protection. So I just knew that at some point it would open up again. And yeah, so I lose track of time. I'm really hopeless at it. I'm okay with being hopeless at it. I didn't used to be, but that's just part of my new way of being now, is that I just never am sure what time it is, what day it is, what date it is, unless I'm referencing it somewhere.
Yeah, me too. And even if I reference it, I have to go figure out sometimes what month it is, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I have to look at my clock or my phone or whatever to figure those things out. And Gaia showed me I think last year she showed me that the entire chronological time grid on the Earth was being dissolved,
right.
so that we would begin to work in quantum time. We begin to be having experiences of that, and lots of us have had sort of glitches in the matrix with time, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. There's been a lot of that going on for a couple of years. I mean, I think it's slowly been happening, but it started really getting noticeable, especially this year.
Mm.
Everything's getting noticeable this year. I think one
Yeah.
of the things one of the positive attributes of doing a show like this is, obviously the main focus is what is the person's experience, because that's really where the code is.
Mm.
The way they get the information or whatever becomes secondary, because it's really just the presentation of information. But I think people, because we get messages, Morgan and I, we get messages, and you see it in the comments, people saying stuff like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one, or thank God I found this place, because, because, I don't have anyone to talk to. And there's a bunch of weird people out there in this group called Soulogy, and, and they're able to, I guess, find some sanity, but the reason I brought that up is,
Or
the
alone
reason,
in it,
what's that? What's that?
or realise that they're not alone in it.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Yeah. Well, because I think there's so much comparison in the old paradigm,
Mm.
and so it's like she can do that and he can do that, but I can't do that, and we underestimate what our clairs are, and we overestimate. The grass is always greener. What somebody else can do. But you mentioned a couple of things, and I just wanted to find out for that purpose, because everybody does get it differently. So you talked about obviously the poetry thing. I mean, that's I think a lot of people could relate to that. Whether it be the poetry, or whether it be what you wake up and you've got ideas, or you've got flow and whatever. And then you talked about taking walks with both Jesus and Mother Mary, and then etc. How do you? I'm just curious as to how do you receive? What are your clairs when you say you're taking a walk with Mother Mary or Jesus? Is it third eye? Do you ever see apparitions? It's third eye. And as
Yeah.
far, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I think that was my initial clear, is
Mm-hmm.
that vision, that inner vision. I've been a creative, I guess, in my life in lots of different ways. And so that's probably my strength. But I also hear, and I have this kind of super weird thing now where I can have people sitting in front of me on camera or in my client space, and I can feel what's going on in their body. So it's really easy to help people when I can feel where the contraction is, and then I can feel when it's shifting or moving or softening.
Mm.
So that's quite I don't know how new it is, but that's maybe the last one that's come on board. So I see, hear, feel, yeah.
Mm. Well, I know when people talk about, I heard a voice say, and I know in my own experience, for me, it's very rare that I actually hear an audible voice, but I know other people that they hear it all the time.
Yes.
Mine tends to be in the vast majority that intuitive. Now, did I hear that? And I've heard it, uh, I think what you're referring to and what I was referring to with other people, where you actually hear a voice. And how does that work for you? Is it both, or do you actually hear a voice in both of them? Yeah.
Yeah, both. So sometimes I hear it in my, I guess you would call that your inner ear or your inner hearing or your intuitive hearing, and other times I hear it as an external voice.
Mm. Wow. And have you seen any apparitions? Have you seen anything that where maybe the veil is bleeding through, or yeah?
Yeah, actually, I just made a posting this morning of something because I'm a little bit behind. I was away for the weekend for a
Mm.
family celebration. So on the 29th, I got this vision of humanity, the last gate being open, there being sunshine everywhere, a banner across the finishing line, and the message from Gaia saying the last gateway is opened. Humanity, the collective of humanity, is beginning to pour through, and the bliss codes are coming in. So that's the kind of thing that she shows me, I guess.
So that
Uh,
came yesterday, or was that the 29th of last month?
that came on the 29th. No,
Oh,
the
2 days ago.
29th.
2 days ago.
We're on the 31st
Yeah.
here. Yeah, so two mornings ago. And this morning she showed me that this this ascension spiral that's here in the painting with her, that it's almost a white blur of light now at the top. We're spinning so fast. She is saying that we're almost vertical in that ascension rotation movement, and so we're really close. We're really close
Well,
to thinking about that.
there's been, and that sounds similar to what a lot of people have said recently. Things have ramped up. I mean, I can think of, I can't pinpoint it, but I know there's been several occasions, particularly in the last couple of years, where you could really feel like you walk out and it's a new world. I mean, literally,
Mm.
it seems like February 22nd was a real big day. A lot of people talked about,
Yeah.
yeah, after a few weeks of integration, a lot of people talked about or downloaded masculine and feminine collectively finally reaching or at least enough of an equilibrium to really turn this thing up a notch or two. And there seems to be a lot of glitches and just different anomalies from a human perspective. They're going, whoa, this is real. It's getting real. And a lot of people have been talking about whatever that is. We're almost there, or something to that degree, and understanding. Of course, I think we've all kind of learned over the years that when we receive something and it comes in and you're like, oh my god, and you feel like it's happening right now, like it's so intense. But of course, we're on a linear timeline half the time, and that cosmic timeline the rest of the time, so it doesn't always line up. But what's your feeling about what getting there is for us, based on what you've been receiving?
That we tip into a space or a new dimensional space where the shadow of the collective or of our world is dissolved, and we're accessing our higher aspects. We're beginning to aspect our higher mind, higher heart, higher functioning, and so we will communicate in those higher ways through both love, through our voice. We'll let go of old paradigms, those limited ways of thinking and the programs that we've been held within, all of that conditioning that will have all dissipated. We're in the process of these being dissolved anyway, but that's what will happen in this final thing. Gaia actually thought that we had this moment, this possible moment for ascension I can't even remember now, a week ago maybe. But it's this, she shows it to me. Let's see if I can think of a quick way of saying it. As though this wave comes through, and this wave has this effect of, it's like it shows up to me like a water blasting nozzle on full open, and that washes us in such a way that it clears us out of the last bits of debris.
Yeah.
So anything that holds us from being able to hold this higher fifth dimensional light. And that we've been, I really love the word that she's been giving me, which is called tempering. So she's been talking about our bodies are being tempered. So through the solar light, through what's been coming in from stars and planets and the heavenly realm, that's been gradually creating what she calls ascension fitness, so that we can receive it without having too much of an impact on the body. But it will impact us in such a way that many of us will go to sleep because the frequencies will be high. And we'll just, that's what she says, we'll just be put to sleep, go through that integration, and then we'll awaken to a new space. So she speaks of that. She also has spoken for a long time to me about the fact that the planet actually has a bit of a movement further into the photonic belt. So that is what seems to come with it. It's not this fearful movement. It's, like somebody giving you a bit of a nudge in the crowd. And that also, we get some realignment through our central vertical, through the north-south axis point.
Okay.
So those parts that she speaks of in relation to our ascension.
Well,
and then we'll have amazing new things.
Yeah. I think everybody's question is when. And I think that maybe our I don't want to say exhaustion, but I think the real sincere emotion of, wow, I'm tired. This is really, it's been a hell of a run. Yeah. And I think that energy, and not to mention the energy of us personally transforming and contributing to the, transformation of the collective, certainly has an impact energetically. I remember going back 2.5 years, and I'd seen it before that, but there was a big flurry in the fall in the northern hemisphere. So it would be in your, what is that, spring?
Right.
2019, everyone was talking about the flash. People were reporting the flash. Allison Coe with her QHHT had done a big video, and there were some other big videos, and everybody jumped on the bandwagon, and I'll never forget it. I mean, it was like, it's coming in October, and of course it went right down the drain with, not to say that it's not happening or hadn't happened in the energetic field or that wasn't accurate information, but how much of it's literal and how much of it is metaphoric, and how much of a lack of uniformity there is between the things happening in the energetic or etherical field and on the linear timeline. I don't know. But so, yeah. What are your thoughts on, what that really means? I mean, I don't think anybody can really predict, but a lot of the downloads that people receive that they do share have a lot of similarities, which is one of the things. Yeah, one of the things that I think is different than 2019 is that this thing about going to sleep. And S.A. Smith was on here a couple of weeks ago. She talked about it at length, and we went back and forth on it a little bit. And but yeah, how imminent do you feel it is in terms of the linear timeline?
I think what's different is two things. One of them is that we've got the scientific proof and evidence in terms of what we're seeing come from the sun, and that's what true. The Schumann resonance is showing. It's this ongoing climb that's become more peaked, it's become more close together, and then, like you said, we're having these flares and filaments come off the sun. And they to me, they are the lights that are activating and catalyzing what's going on in our bodies. And that's why we are exhausted, because it's what I call it as cellular exhaustion. And it's because our cells are being transmigrated or transmuted or transformed from carbon-based molecules into silica crystal. And so that to me shows up as these flares, these energies come in, they connect into the crystalline grid network, and then they connect into our energetic Earth Star crystalline chakra.
Right.
And they get released from there up into the body, and they catalyze through the spinal fluid. And then they also are kind of reactivating, remembering, arousing cellular memory from the past, as well as we've been receiving more of our higher consciousness and more of our multi-dimensional experiences. So, all of that's been happening in our little tiny human bodies, and that is a contrast to any other time. That's something that Gaia said to me a long time ago, is that this has never happened before. Humans or nobody has ever taken their physical form through to fifth dimensional bandwidth. They've always left with their light body and then reformed or created a new body. But that's why this is this, long process that we're going through. And I think most people can feel it, that we're being activated from the inside. So we're doing that on a cellular level. And then the other thing that Guy's been speaking about is this kind of this internal solar building of light that shows up a bit like a hot coal. It's bright and orange and fiery looking, and that's this internal build-up that comes with this in alignment with our Ascension movement. And so all I can do is, pass on what she tells me, because I started writing with her, I'm not sure when, 2016 maybe.
Okay.
And I wrote every day and never shared a thing, because I thought, well, this could all be a load of nonsense. So I'm not telling anybody. And then I started to see that what she was giving to me was lining up with things. And so I thought, oh, well, there'll come a time soon. And so that's, when I started sharing, I am in total trust with what she gives me. And I think the time thing is interesting, because what she showed me maybe a week ago was that all of the timelines were coming into one point. And so the metaphor she showed me was being on a golf course on one green, and there were golf balls coming from all directions, all landing into the same hole in the green.
Wow.
So everything coming to that neutral point, that 0 point, and that's where we're being taken to as well. And I think the other interesting couple of lessons that she's spoken to me about for this year for humanity is that we have to give up the need to know, and we have to give up the need to be right, because we're really moving into this beautiful space where we hold space for this and this and this and this, and we're cool with it. And this. Right? We're in ease.
And this too. Don't forget to hold space for ourselves, right?
Yeah. And that's the main thing. That's...
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, here I am. That's right. So it really is all about us. So right now we have to be these exquisite pillars of light as conduits between the heavenly realms and the earth, where we're kind of rising up and pulling in and grounding all at the same time. It's quite a mission. And that's what we're being asked to do as we just come into our own center, our own alignment, recognize that there's way more to us in terms of who we are and what we know and what we're here to do, and that it will unfold. Yeah. And that right now it's this real intentional focus on what do I need? what do I need right now, and then how can I give that to myself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the best thing you can do for the collective too. That is the Trinity energy, right? Equally
Yeah.
serving. God, you mentioned a couple of things there. I don't want to jump around too much, but you mentioned obviously, even though over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of the downloads and what's been shared by people all over the world have carried the same information, not exactly, but I mean, there's a general trajectory that it fits in and may sound a little different, but but I think one thing can't be denied, especially these last 3 or 4 months, which is the rapid acceleration again of what's occurring and what you said, which is I get the download, I get triggered, process, and expand almost like in one motion, like awareness to expansion and all the steps in between almost happen at the same time. So we have the greater capability to be able to do something like that, and instead of 2 weeks off and 2 weeks on, right?
So that's what we used to do, isn't it? We'd go through a bit of purification and a bit of, okay, well, yeah, stuff's come up for me to deal with. I'll better look at that and have a look at it and do some processing and maybe check in with yourself. And then that creates a space for something new and higher to come in. And then we bring that in and we notice it and we integrate it. And now we're doing all of that on the go, on the run.
Exactly.
We're purifying, pulling in, healing, catalyzing, integrating, all on the run. And Gaia has funny kind of metaphors that she uses. She talks about being on a skateboard on top of a surfboard on a big wave, and we've got to manage that. It's that's what's happening. Everything is moving. So our tectonic plates are moving. We're in this continual vibration. We are going to have volcanic action. We are going to have earthquake action. But she says no big ones. It's just lots of little rumblings as we're, just like us, right? We're not having massive breakdowns and meltdowns either. We're doing this,
I had
gentle
one yesterday.
I feel very gentle at times.
I had one yesterday. I was in tears for probably 4 hours. But it was actually,
really?
but it was actually a huge shift, right? I mean, it was a huge shift. It was amazing. I'm going to talk about it on this is our last Soul Speaks 5D episode in this studio, in our home studio. This is Morgan and I's first home together. And we've done about 1,400 shows out of the 3,400 have been done here in the last 2 years. But yeah,
it's been massive what you've done. I'm sure that you do realize, but let me tell you that what you have done is, there you go. I'm just been given a little image of it. It is as though you've really had this big darning needle and you've been creating threads across the globe, creating, a new fifth dimensional net.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well,
thank you so much.
I'm only half of it, and I'm really just one little iota of it because I see where it's, obviously one big vortex, but God, how do we get off on that? But thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, I was just saying, so I'll always remember this because it's the last one. And one of the things you mentioned too is that, and there's no coincidences, so I mean that with great reverence, the body, like regardless of what everybody's experience is, the body has been becoming since the beginning of the year, even toward the end of last year, really speaking loud to people as the separate consciousness within our multi-dimensionality consciousness, speaking like any other consciousness to us in a way that it never has before. And so that's kind of something that, we think, oh, wow, is everybody feeling this? but I have a feeling that everybody is feeling this. And one of the ways that it's going to kind of bring a consensus to that, or maybe bring it to the top of the subject matter, just in daily life, is the effect on the body and what's happening with the body. And I thought it was about the last 10 days, and I'm going somewhere with this. I, like a lot of people, my diet's changed dramatically, and I can't even eat. I'm eating once a day, and I used to eat 3 times a day with 2 snacks. Morgan will tell you. But my body for the last 10 days has been absolutely on a tear. And today, I didn't sleep. I slept 2 hours last night, and so I was, half awake and walking around, preparing everything to move and whatever. And so I was open, and I just got this massive kind of, how that happens. You get this massive amount of information in this little bit of time, but it was all about the body. And it was really, if I had to put it into human words, it would be like, you know what? This is all going to fall into place, so to speak, very quickly. So if you try to ingest anything that is not suitable, and this wasn't like, shame on you. It was just like, you're gonna know right away. And I've heard of other people talking about that. Have you had any recent changes in what you can eat and what you can do and not do?
Yes, I have really. I've almost spent a lot of the time being a bit like a fruitarian lately.
Mm.
So that's been a big shift for me, and often only eating once during the day. More inclined to drink liquid food.
Yeah.
And I know that we've been through upgrades through each of our areas, and we're on the last little bits now.
It
So
feels like it.
we're really on the throat's been the bridge between a lot of things. So the throat's had these little mini upgrades, but we're really in this connection between the heart and the throat, and of course that links into our sexual area as well, and into truth. So we're being, what would you call it? Reconditioned, I guess.
I feel like somebody's scraping the inside of us out, like scraping them. And I think what you said is accurate, because it's been my experience for the last, couple of weeks for sure, that I hear a lot of people talking about some really deep stuff to them personally has come up. And I know for me yesterday was I wouldn't even know how to describe it. It wasn't a sad thing. It was parts, epiphany and revelation, reverence, and the deepest part of my soul, the deepest part of my heart, and transmissions coming in, very physical. And I think a lot of people have been experiencing that one way or the other, mentally, emotionally, physically, or all the above. That, you know what I mean? They kind of parallel. So,
absolutely. And to me, one of the really big features that's going to change our world is that people are going to be speaking their truth.
Yeah.
But it will be done in a way that is not denigrating to anybody else. People will be able to house it in an energy that sits in gentleness. So it'll just be, I'm just speaking my truth, and no one has to have any reaction or response to it. It's just a reception of it. Yeah. And when we do that, a lot of things are going to disappear from the way that we operate.
Well, they won't even be in the field, though, right? I mean, you're talking about a field where forgiveness doesn't exist because there's nothing to forgive. You're talking about a field where there's no judgment.
That's right. No judgment, no comparison.
No pedestals.
Yeah.
No unconscious narcissism, which, the entire patriarchal's basically one big narcissist, so that's a really wild thing. Okay, so let me give you a little context. I don't know if you knew Franco Di Nicola, our brother who used to come on here twice a month. And
I listened to him a couple of times with you.
Yeah, fascinating, most fascinating story about him. I can
You
go on
had
for
a
hours, but
special relationship with him, didn't you?
yeah, we did. We really did. And so
Probably.
one of the things he said. So he transitioned October 21st last year, and
Mm-hmm.
right up to the end, because he had that level or that type of information where he could actually, he was told, given, things that would be in front of us, but of course they'd always be subject to change. And it was really nice because over that 2 year period, it would alter, and it made total sense. But one of the things that he said toward the end was that uh, by the end of 2023, this world would be led by like regional councils of people like you. So in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what you've received up to today, especially what you're talking about over the last few weeks, um, do you see that being achievable and feasible based on the information you've been given? Because that's a pretty. When I first heard that in early 2021 from him, I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I believe it, but we've got a long way to go. But man, it it feels energetically like it's doable. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that will be definitely the way that we organise things. So that's what Guy has spoken about. We'll have flat councils or flat groups of flat structures that link into other flat structures. And what she says is that by 2025,
Mm-hmm.
that most of our new structures and systems will be in place.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's feasible, isn't it, for 2023, for at least us to be in the exploration of that, even if it hasn't permeated all levels. But we're really in the dissolution of these structures and systems that don't serve us. And when we begin to disengage from them, they'll collapse more quickly.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one.
Mm.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and in the conversation, it was obvious that from what they stated, and I struggle with this. When they were talking about getting the COVID stimulus check and other things where obviously, you're obviously engaged in the institutionalism of the realm,
Yeah.
and I've really struggled with that. Uh, and I would imagine, why would it change? We're going to continue to get great guidance from our teams, from our soul, higher self. But do you see that we'll be coming to a point where we have to make choices that are even crazier than the choices we all made to get here in the first place? That brought us all together. Well, you know what I mean. Like, do I have to? I know in Australia you have to vote. It's compulsory. They're talking about doing that here. I saw an article today. Just everything: borders, passports, driver's license, ID cards. I mean, at what point do we separate ourselves from all of it and just go without it? I mean, do you think that
Oh,
would have to happen? Hmm?
we refuse to we refuse
Refuse to
to be
participate.
a part of it,
Hmm.
and we operate on a higher timeline, and that timeline is in its collapse. That's what I'm showing. So we just
Yeah.
have to be maybe just sitting back a little bit, maybe holding a higher vision.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of not getting sucked into the fearfulness of that, because that's how they've run that system. Oh, if you
Yeah.
don't do this, you better look
Hmm.
out. And if you don't do that, well, you won't get this, all of that, three-dimensional consequences and action that they've put into play. Well, I think we go and feel we go above it. So we
Yeah.
hold the vision of being in higher frequency, and then that is how that three-dimensional world will collapse more quickly.
Yeah.
And it in the etheric realm, I'm showing that that's gone. That three-dimensional matrix in the etheric has gone. That we're just waiting for it to filter down here now. And I think we'll see that pretty quickly. I really do. And this game that we've been playing with this whole COVID thing, has brought up a lot of interesting considerations, hasn't it?
It's brought up a lot of
Um,
expansion too.
a lot, huge expansion.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to Gaia about that, she said that one of the things that humans were exploring last year, and one of the lessons was, did you attune to yourself when you made the decision as to whether you would accept particular things?
Right.
And then did you align with what your inner guidance was? So it was nothing to do with whether you did this or that or that or this. It was all about, did you align to your inner being, and then did you trust that guidance? Did you follow that inner guidance? That was really the lesson, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had a couple of people come on here that's exactly what happened. They were told go get it, and yeah, and then and that's what they explained. They said it wasn't just, and I guess we approach everything like that, don't we? I mean, at least we're afforded the opportunity and given the potential of, let's just say, bringing equilibrium or transforming or whatever you want to call it, based on what we've been, subjected to, so to speak. But what's the difference between a situation like that or a decision like that than the consequences of any trauma in the past? I mean, this is the work that we've done, right? We've taken on something that has kind of pulled us down, I guess, or kept us from ourselves, and we've taken it in and transformed. I mean, it's still the same, the same template, isn't it?
I guess so. She says that when this ascension wave comes through, that a lot of the damage done by those injections will be ameliorated.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to get too caught up with that.
Yeah.
I had a really strong response to it. I heard this voice say, they'll have to kill me first. And then I looked around and I realised I was the only person in the room. Must have been me that said that.
I had one more question on that because you brought up a good point. I can't remember now, though. Dang. Darn it. So when you now, your soul, higher self came in and said you're going to start channeling, right? And this was a while back.
Yeah, it was before the time with Gaia.
Okay, so now when you channel, you're channeling Gaia most of the time, right? I mean, that's pretty much where you're at now.
Yeah, and I've even changed that. I don't really use that word. I know people understand that word, but I really call it a transmission because I think when I used to do channeling, I would invite those beings into my body,
right?
And I would, shift aside. And now I believe that what I do is I am in conversation.
Okay.
And so I'm just receiving the information. And that's how it feels to me with her, is that I'm in conversation with her. But I call it a transmission because I don't invite her to be in my body.
No, I'm with you on that. To me, it does make more sense to use the word transmission. But and that's where my question was with what you just explained. So you may not have anything to add to it, but I was curious as to when you transmit. Do you do it with conscience? Do you initiate it, or does it just happen to you, or both?
Both. So I think when I first connected into her, I was going to meditation, and we would go and connect into Gaia in the center of the earth, or to the center of the earth, and I would see her. And each time we would visit there, I would see her more and more clearly. And so I said to this guy who was running the meditations, look, do you see her when we go down there? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I do. I see her really clearly. And we discussed, and we were seeing the same being. And I said to him, well, when are you going to paint her? And he looked at me and he said, well, I think you are. And I rolled my eyes as if, and said to Spirit, well, if I'm meant to do that, you'll have to give me a good prodding because I'm not sure that that's
Did
my
you do
work.
it? Did you do it?
Yeah, so I got brought
Oh,
this in here today
hang
and
on.
shared it.
Let me see if I can make
So that's
this
the
work.
original.
Oh, I did that wrong. I did that backwards. Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. See, it was blocked on the screen, but now we can see the whole thing.
Yeah, so that's
Wow.
her in her maiden form, which is how she wanted me to paint her. And so that was my initiation, Todd, with her.
How long
Um,
ago did you paint this?
2016, I think,
Uh,
or 2015, one
and
or the other.
what is that in her heart and higher heart area? What is that
So
figure?
in her high, that's a spherical crystalline flower of life. So I
Okay.
see that in a cavity within her.
And uh, the stuff that's coming from her hand up to that ball, that globe,
Yeah.
the Earth. What is in
So
between? Different levels
so
or what?
yeah, so that's our spiral of ascension, the ascension flame, the flower of life, and it's the double helix. So in relation to our DNA upgrades,
Mm.
and that's how she has shown me this process that we're in. We're spiraling up. So each individual is having their own individual single ascension spiral, and then collectively that creates a different or merged spiral. And we're creating and co-creating this new earth, which she sits inside on the top.
Wow, it's amazing. It's just
Yeah, so
amazing.
that's her purification pond in the front. And so, yeah, when I take people down there, she does little initiations and rituals with them. It's honestly, it's the most beautiful work. I feel so blessed to be working with her. I really do. And yeah, the cave's got bigger. The center of the earth feels more expanded. I watched all sorts of things with her. I watched the dragons clearing out the inner earth. I watched them doing amazing things. I did that over a period of 2 years, watching the dragons clear out various debris from the inner earth, including beings. Um, and the interesting thing is, at the end of 2019, I think in October, she said to me, "Right, well, we've done the inner earth now, and now we will prepare to clean up the surface." And then what did we have?
The greatest creation we've had in our lifetime, I think. Really, when you get right down to it. Um,
Yeah.
they somebody mentioned earlier. I think it was our friend Luke talking about couples.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of talk about couples in the last. I mean, there has been the whole time. That's part of the ascension, I think. But um, certainly over the last few weeks, there's been more talk about maybe from the 22nd of February, maybe into March or April. People were talking about that the war was over between the genders and that there'd been a new equilibrium or enough of an equilibrium with the masculine and the feminine coming into integration that some of the magic was coming out or some of the power, some of the illumination. Are you getting any intel, any transmissions coming through in regard to that alteration to what's been pre-existing? Whether it be in a general sense or with couples in particular.
Well, yes. So, in general, how I'm showing it is that the divine masculine is really in this place where they're stepping into their power, and there are people like you who have really led the way with that. So we know that there are divine masculine who are already in their more ascended form, and they're creating more generic templates. That's how I'm showing it. And the twin beings or the divine counterparts that have come together at this time. That's what Gaia has spoken to me about. Those couples who've come together in union, they have created generic templates around relationship. And then the new connections that are coming in, and she says that this year is a is a strong year for those connections to come in. And she is saying, if I remember correctly, October is October is a time where she is expecting that many of them will have come into connection and union of this year, and readiness for the 11:11 gateway in November, and that what they are doing. So I put together a video about this a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago. So it's all of this. So these divine counterparts are undoing aspects of relationship that need to be changed. So
Right.
the paradigms that are unhealthy around all of the ways in which we relate and connect with one another through the
Right.
conditioning and programs of religion and different marital states and the whole gamut of the way in which we communicate and relate to one another, that's all being undone and then redone through this process. So we're in kind of, I guess we're getting into high gear with that. And then that, of course, ripples down to the collective, because that's
Right.
one of the reasons for all of these divine counterparts to be here at this time is to undo those templates, come together, create this incredible ripple of unconditional love that ripples out across the globe, and she says will affect people who even come near the edges of those fields, that they'll be transformed. And so this can tip also, that's a part of the occurrence of it now, is to assist the world to tip into higher love and higher dimensional frequency. And then we'll see that in terms of a lot of people are now having relocations, disconnections, undoings of relationship, jobs, house, geography, like you. That's happening everywhere for people to be put into their new place on the chessboard, is how she said it. So we're really in these finer, higher nuances of coming to our place to hold our space for this next higher illuminated place that we're going to be residing, where life will be totally different. We'll have a total rehash of the way we work and live and relate. We'll have new species or old species, higher frequency species, especially insects, she's saying. We'll have insects that haven't been on our earth for a long time.
What is that?
They'll be the first. She's saying we will have insects that are higher dimensional species that will be returning. That will be the first sort of nature sign.
Are you talking about like a humanoid, like an insectoid, or are you talking about something, like a larger?
No, I'm talking about our natural world of insects.
Okay.
Yeah. So
has that already started, by the way?
I don't know. Maybe it has. Maybe it has.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of weird stuff go on here as I'm closing shop up here the last few days.
Okay. Yeah.
And I look at it and go, that's an insect, and then I hear, I'm getting like, no, it's not. It's a fairy. I even took some pictures last night and looking at it like, but here we go, right? We got to know, right? We have to get the proof and all that, and I think that's part of what you said and what others have been saying, and actually coming to grips with it. We can't know everything. I think this whole thing that you said very plainly, because I love to approach it from the human. Morgan and I are both the same way. Like, what does that mean to the human, right? I mean, when you said the need to be right, what was the other one? The need to be right, and the
need to know.
The need to know, but more so the need to be right, because everything seems to be drilling down. Why is this coming back up? Because we still got more to do. We're scraping it out, right? And that whole being right thing is a really, really deep, embedded, like to the nth degree, into the bones of the body, right? I mean, and
it permeates every level, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This need to be right. Our education program conditions that the healthy debate in society it creates that. And so always we're in this gentle form of conflict because we're in argument, because we're wanting to prove our point.
Right.
And so what we need to do is drop into ease, so we can hear that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It might not sit right here next to one another very comfortably, but it can sit there, and that's where we are moving to be able to do that, to be able to express what we feel, think, know, and it not be important that anyone says, oh, I agree.
I know.
And we'll do it, and it'll be gentle, and it will be, imagine just taking that energy out of our social structure.
Yeah.
It'll be totally different.
I've had a download since like 2015 about this network, this Sylogy network. And of course, you get that stuff and you think it's going to happen the next day. And, I've had egg on my face over the years. I haven't the last couple of years. I kept my mouth shut. But I've always said, because part of it would be like like a Facebook style private profile, personal profile, social community. And I thought, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if you could create the same thing and no comments? You know what I mean? Nobody gets to comment. I mean, I share 1,500 memes in a month, and I'm fascinated. I learn so much from. I don't comment, but I read the comments, and that whole debate, and I got to be right thing, and on the silliest memes. I do a lot of funny memes, so it's like, why do you have to say that? Why? And I'm not coming down on anyone. I'm talking to myself, even, right? I mean, it's just like, why is it that you have to say? Why do we have to say anything? Why can't we just let it stand? But I think you explained it earlier, where people will be able to speak their truth, kind of like an environment that people talk about here with the show. Like, you're supported. You're not going to be, made fun of. It's safe. And that's what it feels like to me. Like, so if I can talk to you and say something that's absolutely how I feel, there's no, there's nothing but reverence for it. It's do unto others as you would have do unto you, right? I mean, it's like the sticky nose frequency is gonna be out of the field now. The sticky nose and the opinionated and all that. It's not. I can see where what you're talking about, and what others have talked about, to be able to speak in an environment where there's no echo. There's no rebuttal. There's nothing needs to be said. Why do you need to say anything? I mean, that being right thing is run so deep.
Sorry.
No, I said that having to be right, what you said, sounds like this big when you hear it, but it's actually really deep. It's a really deep program.
Really deep. Yeah, it is. It is. And so instead of being in receipt of something, there's this program that runs that says, well, what is wrong with that? And where is it that I disagree with that? And then this drive to express it.
Yeah.
Instead of being softer with it, receiving it, sitting with it, and even deciding internally, oh yeah, most of that feels good. Not sure about that, but that's okay. And we'll learn to do that differently as well, because our bodies are going to become, well, we're already using our bodies like a GPS, aren't we? And our bodies are becoming so sensitive to receiving things. Our body will tell us, is that truth or is that not truth? A lot of us can do that already. We can read something and know whether it's truth or not. We can listen to something and know whether it's truth or not. And then if it's not truth to us, well, we just let it go. We don't have to push back on it. So we're letting go of all these things that create resistance, and it's the resistance that creates energy that's forcing against, whereas we want to be creating energy that's open and allowing expression and allowing people to really dive deeply into themselves. That's our I see that as our process now, is to really dive deep within self.
Yeah.
What's
Isn't it?
the meat and
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think about it over over the years doing the show, like how, because really we complicate things and it can be very simple. And it just absolutely intrigues the hell out of me that our greatest superpower is the human. Like when the human does the work, the skies open up, right? And the Red Sea parts. I mean, it's just like, it's just so ironic, especially in these communities of the last 10 years, because we've all gone through it one time or another. Most of us, I'm not going to say everybody, but I certainly did. And which is, you get a transmission, you get a download, you get whatever you want to call it. And, or you're channeling a specific entity, or you're so-and-so in a past life, and can be as much of an attachment as these traumas that we brought into, that we neutralized. But at the end of the day, it looks like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm always open to other ideas, definitely, but it just seems like the more work we do on ourselves, and it doesn't matter if anyone knows about it, doesn't matter, because the energy, the elevation of the energy itself speaks, as to what you were saying earlier, and that also what you referenced with couples, but I know it could be an individual too, where somebody's, really, breaking through the ceiling on their frequency, and they get into contact with other people, and we've all probably experienced it to some degree or another, and you either get that, that, oh wow, kind of thing, or you get a huge trigger coming at you, or somebody projecting at you because they're like, they can't handle it, but yeah,
yeah.
it just ironic to me that
Hey,
yeah. And someone like you, do you still is it still a part of your daily experience that you have to go dig for something, or something shown to you and you have to like look at it and go, okay, wait a minute, now I need to bring this into the 0 point, I need to bring this into my heart, or something like that?
yeah, I think not so much. I actually believe that the reason that I don't have that as a daily experience is because I sit with Gaia and her energy every day.
Mm, mm.
And so I'm, doing that, and I'm doing that transmutation with my clients, because always our clients show up with some reflection and mirror to
Exactly.
us.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't take that into account. So that's a daily thing for you, between the
Well,
sessions and
yeah,
then sitting
three
with
or four
Gaia.
days.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Is there,
So I'm sure that's why I've been able to maintain this sense of presence with what is coming as well. That I have not had any fear. That's not true. When we first went into all this lockdown, I had this fear to the extreme, where I thought, what am I going to do if they come to my door and drag me away? And so I processed that. And I processed that as, okay, well, let's say that's real. What will I do with that? And so as soon as I processed that as, okay, that's a possible reality, then I diffused it. It's like, it was the same as, and I know lots of people have done this facing dying. Once you come to being at peace with that you might die, there's huge peace and ease that comes with that. And all of a sudden, so much fear leaves our existence. And so I went through that. And then, yeah, because she's been showing me what's coming, I haven't lived in any of that fear. And so that's been pretty useful for me. And I've definitely faced things that have come up. And yeah, I do that. I sit with it. I cry, I process it, I feel into my body. Where is it? What does it look like, feel like? What's the message it's telling me? What does it link to? Is it deeper than that? But I think right now we are in such incredible, extraordinary energies that really a brief, oh yeah, there's something going on there for me. What does that look like? Oh, it's that. Okay, off you go. It's so quick now, because we're just in these finer points, these finer nuances of clearing. And because the major shadow aspect of the planet has left, and we are now so clear, so many of us are so clear that we're holding space for that as well. So it's easier. We haven't got things pushing against us anymore. So it's like putting something downstream and it just goes. We're not rowing against it. So we've got rid of a lot of aspects of resistance in our energy world, which means that we can, rise up to the surface, really. I can't see if you're there or not, Todd.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, how about that?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry. It's that 3D brain. Yeah, I know it's muted.
That's all right.
I had to cough a minute ago. But, like since on or about 2012, just using that as a reference point. And that was me, everybody. I had the mic on mute. From that point, regardless of the level of fluctuations, ups and downs, dark nights of the soul, the many dark nights of the soul, the many faces of that, things have progressively have never gone backwards. I think all of us in these communities can say it's never gone backwards. It's not been easy. We go up and we go down, but it's more like an ascending, line in geometry, right? When you have the access points, and it's more of like a curvy line, right? As opposed to up, down, up. But it's gotten easier. But really, I think this year, certainly the last 3 or 4 months, you can really see the reciprocation, not just from our efforts of the day, but from this past, all this work we did, and so many people did far more than me, far earlier than me. But, it just seems like that it's starting to pay off. And I remember when I first woke up, they told me there's only one. You're all unique and equal parts of that.
Yeah.
And there's a perfect order. We might call it the golden rule, which just means it's an equal energy exchange. So for what you put in, it will come back. And it just seemed like we were in this, I used to say like a upside down fishbowl in a corner of the multiverse where everyone else operated a different way. And we operate, in this crazy dualistic polarity realm. But it feels like it's on a personal level that it's really lifting for people, and they're really making strides no matter what craziness comes in their life, like you were talking about.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I want to say to anybody who listens is that it's very important that everybody recognizes that they have a unique role to play here. It's not lower or higher, better or worse than what anybody is doing. We each have our own unique part to play. And I want to say it's actually essential that we play it. Yeah. So getting to know who you are and why you're here and what you're doing and what is your next part is all your contribution to the bigger picture plan here. And for some people, that's passing at the moment. That's been what they've decided to do. They're releasing density by taking their physical form off the planet, and many of those will come back in new ways or new forms. It's going to be pretty exciting to see what happens in our next piece of the action when we land in our new dimensional space.
How do you feel about the summer? I've been having this feeling for a couple of 2-3 months. It's going to be a hot summer. Hot as in things are going to be popping, because I mean, one thing we can look at too, even with COVID and even with some of the other, funny stuff going on, just this last 3 or 4 months, whether it be Johnny Depp and Amber Heard or whether it be Ukraine or whatever. But like I think somebody I was talking to earlier today, that like, when you're when you're going down, you're gonna give it your best. In other words, the distortion is getting loud. Things are getting louder. But to your point earlier, we're able to hold the ground and not let it, come into our field, I guess.
Yeah, it's this this whole thing about rising up and stretching out and grounding it in all at the same time. It's not an easy feat, but that's what we're being asked to do at the moment. And that's another reason why it's important to do this. I see it as folding in on oneself. We drop deep into our own centre, we connect to our own divinity and see what we get and what we need to do. But mostly now, it's about being.
Yeah.
It's just about sitting in deep presence with one's own divinity and seeing what is presented next and not get distracted by what's going on, because holding our vibration is the biggest contribution we can make to self, and then do the work that arises. And all of that, creates this new kind of net.
Yeah. It's you know what it reminds me of when we were kids, right? It's almost like a disassociation. Like when you're a kid, and I remember being in the backyard, and I'm playing with my friends, to me they were real. I can't prove it to anybody, but I had massive, experiences back there just making up it's the fairy tale. It's it's right. And so
very real.
Yeah, exactly. So as kids, obviously, we have parents, or we have broken homes, or we have whatever happens, and we could always go out to the backyard or go to the playground or go out into the wood. You know what I mean? And it's almost like a disassociation. And now it feels the same to me. So I keep telling myself, go to the fairy tale. Go to the fairy tale.
Yeah.
And don't get hung up on, right?
Sorry, say that last part again.
No, I was just saying, don't get hung up on the story of COVID, or the story of, whatever.
The story of anything, really. So to me, that's the way we engage in our own healing as well. So we can feel the pain of it in a physical way, but the emotional pain, once it's healed, and the mental pain, it comes from running the story. And so as soon as we drop the story and it just becomes a factoid, really, well, that happened. But all of the story that goes with it, that's what carries the energy that holds us in that frequency.
Yeah.
And so when people are doing counselling work, if they're going over and over and over and over and over and over and over, all they're doing, as far as I'm concerned, is entrenching it more into neural pathways and emotional nodules and connection points. So we've got to let go of the drama of things, let go of the story of things, not try to justify.
Yeah. Slam the door. That's my advice. Slam the door. People say, "What? People got? I got to do this. I got to. What can I do?" I'm not a practitioner, but my advice is be alone, and that's not to be confused with loneliness. That's the best gift, and I think that's why so many people. It's even from a higher perspective. I think Morgan and I understood that. We didn't get it a year ago. We didn't get it like so much, it comes in, you don't really actually get it till later, but it's totally made sense, because not only did we need to be with ourselves, and obviously we still connected in the whole time, but there was so much time spent alone that was so necessary. And then as this past, 12 months, 14 months went by, every day you heard more and more people. Same thing. I don't want to talk to people. I don't do people. I don't want to go anywhere. We thought we were hermits before COVID.
Oh, exactly. And also, I think there were all sorts of frequencies running, and there were certainly in the collective, there was a lot of fear. So when I would go out, I would think, I think I might go home now, because the energy of it was just too swirly and messy. And all of that's, I think, is for people
See,
to be
you
shown.
know, and I've been like
At the
this. I've been like this for years in terms of my opinion. I'll use that word about the threat of anything. You know,
yeah,
when I went through my period in 11 and 12 and 13, it was all, it was all alone. So, I mean, it's just the way it rolled out for me. But in that time, I overcame death and I just went, nothing can, well, I mean, if I'm a soul and I believe it, then who the hell can hurt me? Nobody, you know? You know what I mean? But I don't know. I feel like that the discussions that have dominated the platforms, Starseed, Lightworker, Awakening, whatever you want to call it, have been story related and they served a purpose. But what's the point of talking about these things? COVID, vaccines, chemtrails, GMOs, fluoride. Does it mean you don't avoid them? No. But at the
no,
same time, they've got no power over you. And if they had, they would have taken us out by now, right? It's kind of like the whole
yeah.
thing with
Worth mentioning to some people because they're in a naive world of feeling that they're looked after. So there are definitely people who say things like, well, it's hard to believe our government would want to harm us.
well, I mean, obviously that's a different. There's like phases, right? Or you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything that you want to do? I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm sorry I'm not at my best today. I only slept 2 hours.
I'm sorry I can't see you.
Oh, I didn't mean the way I look. I look like hell. I'm turning my hair's turning white. My skin's turning white.
Oh,
But
well, we're really going. We really are in this crystallization
hmm,
format, and so lots of things are happening in terms of everybody goes. I think everybody goes through all of these processes in different orders and at different times.
yeah,
But we're in preparation for that becoming quite obvious. This crystalline nature, and it's what's happening right now for people in general is this clearing in the throat so that we can connecting to our heart, connecting to our higher heart, accessing the information that needs to be expressed, and then being able to speak it out. So for some beings that will be figuring out what those emotions are, what's the language that goes with them, and then to speak it out. So that's a process that a lot of people are in at the moment, and even speaking it to yourself is the first part of that. The speaking things out loud to self can shift and move things as well.
absolutely.
So we're in this new dialogue or this closure of that part. Let me see. I asked Gaia if there was something
Yeah,
to say.
I would just like
Oh,
if there anything you want to say or do, um,
okay.
before we get out of here. No rush. I want to make sure that you have time to do that
All right.
in terms of it. Yeah.
So this morning, this is what she, when I said to her, is there something that you'd like me to say? She said, at this time, you must be all things to self. You are ascending, spiraling upwards in rapid spin and rotation in vertical motion. At the same time, you are required to open up, absorb, and assimilate this light. This light, concluding DNA connections and upgrades. So this sort of Christed crystalline light that's been coming in, that's what that has been doing, that's been catalyzing this smoothing and reconnection of DNA stranding. So we're getting that as well as our multidimensional stuff. Finalizing purification, activating skills, talents, gifts related to DNA, multidimensional cells, and cellular memory, whilst also being grounded. Connecting your new light body, housed in physical form, to the new pulsating fifth dimensional light grid of the earth, or the crystalline light grid of the Earth, it feels busy. That's because it is. Exhaustion at a cellular level, dive into self and let go of any fears, because we're just moving into our new fifth dimension existence, where we'll have new technologies, where we'll have new ways of being, connecting, loving, and communicating.
Do you think that, thank you, do you think that we'll be utilizing to a great degree technology, or will become the technology?
Both.
Yeah. I know it's both, but I mean, like, initially, do you think that, like, med beds? I don't really, it doesn't matter what I think, but I'm just saying, like, with med beds, so many people have demonstrated instantaneous healing of major afflictions, diseases, and conditions just in the last 10 years, and certainly in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how, because one of the things that I notice about this energy is it's very contagious. Just like you talked about with the couples, if there are an individuals around and they're carrying a certain frequency, if you get close to them, you're going to get lit. You know, but wouldn't I would just think that the same thing would apply if I've been around somebody or bodies that have done some, by our terms, phenomenal, instantaneous, divine healing within their body, that I would pick up that code. Or
Yeah,
at
I
least
agree.
potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But I am shown, though, that every dwelling will have a pod in it,
Yeah.
and that every being will spend, I don't know how long, but what I was shown was each week every being in the house would spend a bit of time in that pod to maintain optimal condition.
Well, yeah. First, we got to get up to optimal condition.
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
all
we
we've
do.
all been down here in the bush league. Yeah. What a fascinating thing to go from the low species, so to speak, on the totem pole to this massive, all comprehensive, everything's inside of us, God. I mean, it's
I know, it's a big, long movement that we've had, isn't it? And I think one of the sort of oxymorons of it all has been that we've had to shift from this notion, maybe, I don't know how long ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe even longer, where many people felt that they would ascend by going back to their own planet, or that they would ascend by taking their energetic body out of the physical form and they'd leave the earth. And now we've had to learn that no, that isn't how we're ascending this time. And that's why there's so much interest from the multiverse, because this has never been done in the history of the multiverse. That's what I'm told. This
yeah,
shifting in physical form from carbon to crystalline. And they've been there for a while now. Again, don't ask me about time, but they've been there for a number of years witnessing it, because it was not believed that we would do it. And now it's obvious that
yes,
we
that's
are.
what I mean. We've gone from the redheaded stepchild to the newest and latest and best version. Not to compare, but just to say this is. And if you think about it, and I don't know if I'm picking this up from, because everybody's got stuff coming in now, more and more, but it was almost like, I remember when Morgan came from Australia the first time, and we spent 2 or 3 days, and then we had a session, and she'd done a lot of, obviously a lot of energy work with people over the years, but the mother goddess came into her body. I watched it happen. Her voice changed, and she started telling me on a personal level, which, we know that as it goes with with an individual, that's how the whole thing goes. But anyway, she was saying all this stuff, and then she said something like, you knew it was going to be tough down here, but you didn't know it was going to be this tough. or like,
Oh,
or you know what I mean? Like, so to me, it only makes so what I was going to say is I've been picking up on this thing, like it's like okay, if you stay down there, here's going to be the potential outcome, almost like a carrot on a stick, and now we grab that carrot and we're actually going to do it. And I heard, like, I remember hearing this like about a year ago. It's like how they can't believe how far we've come and how fast
mm,
we've gotten there.
yeah.
So yeah, I think now we have the vast majority, if not all the majority of the multiverses cheering us on, because they're going to benefit.
Absolutely.
They're going to benefit from this. They're benefiting now.
Yeah, because this micro and macro thing is a really interesting thing to get our heads around. So as we ascend as individuals, the collective ascends, the planet ascends, and then that enables the rest of the universe to ascend.
Yeah,
So it's this entire sequence.
yeah,
And actually, that's another thing that Gaia uses as a term. Often she talks about time being sequential.
yeah,
And so she reflects on that in terms of, this has to happen and then this, but the time in between has a variance, but there's an order. There's a set order for things to occur. And it's the same with divine counterparts coming together. There's it's not all linear sequence, but there's an organizational sequence about how they come and lock into a template, and that's quite interesting. And then that's what we're all doing. So we're creating together with one another this new crystalline grid, this overlay net that will become part of our new housing in a way. And so, that's what we're doing to our bodies as well. We are one of those grid points, and we are becoming more crystalline, and the energies, the learnings, the memories will come in, and we'll be able to use those. I believe that every single being on the earth came here with great purpose, and that
absolutely.
Gaia speaks of 70% of humanity ascending. At one
70,
point,
70%.
yeah, yes. And so that can happen in a number of ways. So she's talking about some who have done enough work in their physicality and their undoing and addressing their traumas and dramas and woundings that, some will take their bodies through. Some will leave with their bodies because their bodies aren't going to cope with the energy, and they
Right.
will do a reroute, if you like. So they'll come back with an improved body. Some are going to leave because their contract is up. They came here to get the earth to this point, and now they will leave because they're done. They're going on to new assignments. Some are going to leave in their contract because if they didn't reach a certain lower density level or a certain energetic level, they contracted to leave to lift more density. So there's a whole lot of
Right.
variance on it. The other thing that's really interesting to me, and I'm not sure how this works, but I keep being shown that we're going to have beings who arrive and they don't go through the birthing process. And they don't necessarily arrive. Some of them arrive as children, and some of them arrive as adults. And it shows up to me as though people are parachuting into the earth. So
I
I
believe
don't know how
I believe that. I believe that. Well, and it could be a walk-in too. I mean, what we call a walk-in, or a drop-in
yeah,
or whatever. But
yeah, we are doing a lot of walk-ins, but I think that's separate to what I've been shown. And then our kids
yeah,
are our professors.
because it would make sense. It would make sense that there's been plenty of encounters, let's just say, or connections or communions, whatever you want to call it, where it's been more than a prayer or more than just a relaxation type of meditation. Why wouldn't that also include, those standing right next to you or those that stood next to you? Right? I mean, why would it just be inclusive of just elemental, galactic, angelic, or whatever? Why wouldn't it? I don't know. To me, it's like we've done so much work, and I'm not even talking about since 2012. I'm talking about all the lives Because I'm with
more
you.
than
I think everyone that came here is a valiant soul and an integral part. Even Hitler,
yeah,
all of them, right?
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
And
we've lived with this contrast, haven't we? And that contrast has driven change, and
that's the
that's
gift. That's the gift.
the gift.
I remember years ago getting a transmission even before I met, just shortly before I met Morgan. It was like, when you guys get done, you will be universal healers, so to speak. Universal
Oh,
healers. You'll be able to go to anywhere, pretty much, because you'll have the coding for whatever. Because we come from such a vast mix, like a universally seeded. But I guess what I'm saying is I just makes sense to me that you get what you put in, and we have put in something that's never been done before. Therefore, what the outcome is on the other side, like you said with your transmission, is something that's never happened before.
yeah. And it
So
really does look and feel like paradise. We'll be using all of our higher gifts. That's where we'll move to. We'll co-create this new world, this new earth, and it will be all held in higher principles. And we'll explore a whole lot of higher technologies and creativities. Um, I don't know much more than that. I've seen that there's lots of different sort of house forms, and that there'll be some um, kind of introductory experiences where people will say, "Oh, well, I'd like to try that, and I'd like to try that, and I'd like to try that." Okay, yeah, that one, that's my choice
kind
now.
of like conscious simulation, right?
Yeah,
Like a
yeah, and
conscious
also this
simulation. Yeah.
this whole the other thing that's going to be challenging, I think, is that the equity will be incredible. So we will have toddlers who know stuff that we don't.
Oh, I think they'll be
And
teaching us.
yeah, I agree. I see that this is the metaphor, but I see 5-year-old professors in their university lectures. So, they are going to come because they have come without carrying a lot of the karmic residue that we've carried. Even if we've got rid of it, we've still held it. They've come without that. They come in such, honestly, they're just a delight to sit with some of these children. They're
Oh
just
yeah, yeah.
in their purest,
It's
most
just amazing.
incredible form.
Yeah, you don't even have to do anything. You just have a conversation with them. It doesn't have to be about stuff like this. We've had a few on the show, but over the years. But yeah, even just even like having a conversation with my 20-year-old, my youngest. Like she'll say stuff to me. Like she told me the other day, because she's kind of hanging out with this dude, and she's like, I just realized that I have abandonment issues. But she spoke it like somebody that you'd meet in one of these groups, right, or the communities, right,
Yeah,
or you do a session with, like, wow. I mean, 20 years old, I wasn't even thinking in those terms, you know. In terms of my spirituality, I always had it, but I wasn't thinking like, what program do you have running? So that's pretty
mm.
awesome. That's pretty awesome. But
And I think also, whether you know it or not, or like it or not, the work that each of us does
yeah,
affects our
yeah,
children,
yeah, absolutely.
because there's all
Yeah,
of this. We've done a lot of clearing and
yeah,
family lineage
yeah,
stuff, a lot of us, and so maybe all she has to do is acknowledge it
yeah.
and see what comes up.
Yeah,
She won't
I actually did a little
even
session with her
be
the
on
other day. I'm sorry. There's a lag. I'm sorry. Uh,
it. Go on.
yeah, I did a session with her the other day. I don't do sessions, but she was telling me what was going on. I said, look, well, you want to just close your eyes, pull up your higher self, and boom. Like I didn't expect it to go like that. She's like, oh, I see her. I said, well, ask her this. And then she was like, oh, she wants to tell me something else. She's telling me something else. I'm like, wow, she's already like that, just immediately, connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite almost shocking. But okay, so this is the last Soul Speaks 5D from this location. I want to say that it's been an honor to have you here, The engagement has been fascinating. We've got 140 people in the house. Yeah, it'll always be special. The first time we got to sit down and talk, and so we'll have to do it again sometime in 2022. And I just want to say to you, thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I got to ask you one last question. How does it feel for us to be here, from your perspective? Like with the transmissions and the information you've been receiving all these years, how does it feel to be at this point where you can actually, where the light at the end of the tunnel is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I mean, you can actually feel it. How does it feel personally?
I'm pretty amped.
Yeah?
Yeah, I am really excited about it. I wake up with a smile on my face and gratitude, and I go to bed like that as well. And I just see we're just rolling in this magnificent way into something new and exciting and exploratory that is going to bring about, as though we're just held in this magnificent hug, really.
Yeah. Far out.
But may I close with a light language blessing then?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to thank you for having me here. It's been really beautiful, and I honour the work that you do and the contribution that you've made. I think that you've created huge awareness and huge opening portals for discussion on a whole range of topics, and that you hold it so delicately, Todd. Honestly, it's just a pleasure to witness. So
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Itia nakanashi shiana ota oatakanashi. Itia ranakana oyakana ishitiana etia rakana etia shiana atiarana tata iki ashiana atiarana kana shishi ana atakana sisi. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you who are interested, we're going to do a final broadcast in 20 minutes. It's going to be spontaneous, creative, intuitive, imaginative, and probably a bit courageous. I have no idea what we're going to do. I'm sure we're going to bring people on the screen and play some music and just whatever comes up, and go about 90 minutes. And then I'll take down the studio and take everything off the walls back there. So, yeah, we'll see you again.
Lines coming for you, huh?
Yeah. Oh, what's that?
It feels like there's something in the cross lines. That's what I see. It's two lines coming and crossing over to come in to you. I think you'll know soon where you're going.
Say that again. Two lines coming together, right?
Yeah, it's like a stranding that comes in on that, and a stranding that comes in that direction. They cross over just above your head as though they're bringing in something.
Yeah, I've been feeling it. That's why I'm not freaked out. Why didn't you, people say, why didn't you go find another place? Because I'm being told not to. I'm told, put your stuff in storage and wait. You know how this works. They only give you enough to function for the day.
Yeah, I had a really good lesson from Gaia with that when I had no money for my rent one day. And I asked somebody if I could borrow some money for a week, and they said, oh, well, yeah, I'll have a look. And then I went to sleep, and I woke up and I still didn't have any money to pay my rent, but the bank had paid it. And then I got a text from a friend who said, has that 5,000 arrived in your account? And I said, what 5,000? She said, do you remember that you gave me $5,000? I paid it back this morning. And it was a gift. It wasn't a loan. It was a gift. And I said, you've got no idea of the perfection of the timing of that. And Gaia basically said, see.
That's how it works. We don't have savings accounts in 5D New Earth. You just have what you need on that day. That's it.
Yeah, right. Inflow and that abundant flow. So that was a really big lesson for me.
Yeah.
Powerful lesson.
Well, I think you're a beautiful lady, a beautiful sister, and Thank you so much for everything you're doing. All blessings to you and yours and your endeavors. And I'll see you again if you want to in 2022. We can check our pulse and see what's changed.
Wonderful. All right, you take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peace.